Hello. In the book of Genesis, God makes a strange prediction to Abraham. Quote, know for certain that your offspring shall be strangers in a land not theirs, and shall be enslaved and oppressed for 400 years. But I will execute judgment on the nation they shall serve, and in the end they shall go free with great wealth. Unquote. This is not punishment for anything. As we discussed elsewhere, God decided that slavery for the Israelites was necessary for his plan. Let's focus today on the Israelite getting freed with great wealth. After the Israelites are enslaved, God speaks to Moses for the first time at the burning bush and repeats the prediction. Quote, when you go out of Egypt, you shall not go empty-handed, but every woman shall ask of her neighbor and of the women who live in her house jewels of silver and jewels of gold and garments, and you shall put them on your sons and on your daughters, and you shall despoil Egypt. Unquote. In this week's Torah portion, Bo, the last of the 10 plagues is about to be unleashed on Egypt, and God tells Moses it's time to collect. Quote, and the Lord said to Moses, I will bring one more plague upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. After that, he will let you go from here. When he lets you go, he will surely throw you out of here altogether. Speak, please, daber, now, in the ears of the people, and let them ask, every man of his neighbor and every woman of her neighbor, jewels of silver and jewels of gold. Unquote. Sure enough, that is what the Israelites do. Quote, the Egyptians urged the people on, impatient to have them leave the country, for they said, otherwise we're all going to die. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, and their kneading bowls wrapped in their cloaks upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses. They asked of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and garments. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they let them have what they asked. And the Israelites emptied out Egypt. And later, and they baked unleavened cakes for the dough that they had taken out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, since they had been driven out of Egypt and could not delay, nor had they prepared any provisions for themselves. And later, for 7 years you should eat matzot, because you left Egypt in haste. Unquote. This raises many questions. Why the haste? Why the riches? What use did the Israelites have for riches when facing the desert? Why was God so insistent on that? All they needed was God's guidance and provision for their material needs. And we know what they ended up doing with this gold. They built an idol, the golden calf. Moses even castigates God for that in the Talmud. Quote, Master of the universe, the gold and the silver that you lavished upon Israel is what caused Israel to make the golden calf. Unquote. Also, if they were in such a hurry that they didn't have time for the dough to rise, how come they had enough time to ask for silver, gold, and jewels from the Egyptians? First, why the haste? Rashi says it's because the Egyptians would not allow them to stay long enough for the dough to become leavened. Some things never change. When I finally got my exit visa, my permission to leave Egypt in late 1967, I was given 2 weeks to leave. The Israelites didn't have to comply, but perhaps they wanted to get out before Pharaoh changed his mind, which he did, and he pursued them in the desert. The Maharal from 16th century Prague wrote a great deal about this verse. In his view, the lesson of the haste is that God himself took us out of Egypt and not human or natural forces. God makes things happen very fast. We emphasize this in the Haggadah, in which God is quoted as saying, quote, I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, I and not an angel. And I will slay all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I and not a seraph. And I will execute judgment upon all the gods of Egypt, I and not a messenger. I, God, it is I, and no other. Unquote. By remembering the swiftness of the Exodus, we remember that God made it happen, and that's why the matzah is central. The other symbols are not as important. Indeed, eating matzah is only one of two positive commandments regarding Pesach, the other being telling the story. There's also the Jewish concept of zrizut, alacrity, speed in performing mitzvot. Another verse in our portion is, and you shall watch over the matzot, ushmartem et hamatzot. The Midrash tells us what it means. Rabbi Yoshia said, do not read et hamatzot, watch over the matzot, but et hamitzvot, watch over the commandments. The letters are the same, but the vowels are different. Just as we may not allow the matzot to become leavened, so we may not allow the commandments to become leavened by waiting too long to perform them. If a commandment comes your way, perform it immediately, unquote. Thus, the deeper lesson is that we must be prompt in performing all commandments. The Maharal notes that if the Torah only wanted to talk about matzah, it would have stated, watch for hametz, that is, make sure the matzah is not contaminated. Since the Torah said watch over the matzot, there must be a deeper meaning. So a teaching is needed. Mitzvot must be performed with alacrity, promptly, and with cheerful readiness. However, one could ask, if waiting reduces the chance of failure, how long are we allowed to wait? For example, when developing an urgent vaccine, how much testing is enough before making it available while people are dying? As the Mishnah says, Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, velo ata ben harim lehibatel mimena. It is not your responsibility to finish the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. The second question is, why the riches? One answer is to compensate the Israelites for the slavery they had to endure. The Torah says later, this must be done for all freed slaves. Quote, if a fellow Hebrew, man or woman, is sold to you, he shall serve you 6 years, and in the 7th year you shall set him free. When you set him free, do not let him go empty-handed. Furnish him out of the flock, threshing floor, and vats with which the Lord has blessed you. Unquote. Another answer is for religious use. Hezkuni from 13th century France says that the Israelites told the Egyptians they needed these riches to celebrate their religious holiday in style. They also needed them to make the Mishkan, the tabernacle, in the deserts. The Torah says, quote, tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts from me from every person whose heart so moves him. Gold, silver, and copper, blue, purple, and crimson yarns, fine linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skins, dolphin skins, and acacia woods, oil for lighting, spices for the anointing oil and for the aromatic incense, lapis lazuli and other stones for setting, and the ephod and for the breastpiece. And let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. Unquote. Why did God want this elaborate tabernacle in the deserts? Possibly to keep the people busy in their long trek. However, the Jerusalem Talmud says the tabernacle was to atone for the sin of the golden calf. It's so, it could not have been the direct reason for the Israelites taking the riches. The Talmud notes that the people were not inclined to ask for these riches in the first place and needed to be encouraged to do it. Indeed, God tells Moses, Daber na, speak please in the ears of the people and tell them to take the riches. It sounds like an entreaty. Quote, please is nothing more than an expression of supplication. The Holy One, blessed be he, said to Moses, I beseech you, go and tell Israel, I beseech you, ask for vessels of silver and vessels of gold from the Egyptians. Israel said to Moses, if only we could get ourselves out, that would be enough. This can be compared to one who was jailed, and people would say to him, we promise to release you tomorrow and give you much money. He says to them, I beseech you, release me today and I ask for nothing. Unquote. Sforno from 16th century Italy says that the reason for their reluctance was worried that the Egyptians would pursue them to retrieve those riches. The fact that the Egyptians did indeed do so was why God came to the Israelites' assistance and drowned the pursuing Egyptians. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks believes God wanted the Israelites to be compensated to reduce their feelings of hatred against the Egyptians. Quote, "A people driven by hate cannot be free. Had the people carried with them a burden of hatred and a desire for revenge, Moses would have taken the Israelites out of Egypt, but he would not have taken Egypt out of the Israelites. They would still be there, bound by chains of anger, as restricting as any metal. To be free, you have to let go of hate," unquote. The point is clearly stated later. "You shall not hate an Egyptian, for you were a stranger in his lands." Note that it says, do not hate. It does not say forgive or forget or love or help. Just move on. As the rabbi said in the musical Fiddler on the Roof, when asked if there was a proper blessing for the Tsar, he said, "Yes, there is. May God bless and keep the Tsar far away from us." Shabbat Shalom.